WrestleMania weekend is here, and we have the first look at the WrestleMania stage and set ahead of the Showcase of Immortals. Triple H speaks with WWE talent ahead of WrestleMania, plus some interesting details from that meeting. Bray Wyatt is in Dallas for WrestleMania weekend, and he's been answering fan questions too. We'll talk about that. Plus, Randy Orton was a guest on the Pat McAfee show and had some interesting things to say about NXT talent. Seth Rollins continues to tease names ahead of his WrestleMania match tomorrow night. The Undertaker has a statue of him unveiled at WrestleMania Access. All this and more in today's WWE News. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of WWE as we get closer and closer to WrestleMania, beginning tomorrow night inside AT&T Stadium. So let's start off talking about the WrestleMania set and stage, which you can see right there. Pat McAfee, Michael Cole, and the guys from sports comedy group Dude Perfect have revealed the set for WWE's WrestleMania 38 at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. As can be seen on the video on social media, Dude Perfect's football trick shot ignited the pyro on the grandest stage of them all to reveal the setup inside AT&T Stadium. McAfee, of course, who'll be facing Austin Theory at WrestleMania Sunday, was later assisted by some editing as he kicked the trick shot while more fireworks went off outside the stadium. So as you can see it right there, I think it looks good. I mean, the WrestleMania set and stage always looks pretty good. Last year's was good. WrestleMania 36, we'll never know realistically what it was going to be. We know that there was a big pirate ship theme that was going to happen, but of course it didn't, which was really unfortunate because of the pandemic. One of the worst ones, and I don't like to focus on the negative, but one of the worser ones in recent memory was WrestleMania 35. That WrestleMania just giant video wall inside MetLife Stadium just lacked any kind of imagination or anything. It's basically the Titantron we have, or the set we have for Raw and SmackDown now, but just a lot bigger, which was such a waste. I mean, really such a waste. It was so disappointing. Going back before that, the WrestleMania 34 one in New Orleans was really great with the mask. I enjoyed that. The WrestleMania 33 set was fantastic. The sort of amusement park, ultimate thrill ride stuff worked really well. WrestleMania 32 inside AT&T Stadium had a good set as well. It had a giant star, a bit similar to this, but it was a good set also. WrestleMania 31 was just the giant play button, which was okay, I think. WrestleMania 30, I was a big fan of with the Triple X stuff, and then going back to 29 inside MetLife Stadium once again with the whole New York vibe and feel. That was great. So WWE always does good sets most of the time. Historically, does always great sets. Their production's the best. So they always do great sets for WrestleMania most of the time. And this looks great as well. I mean, that's one thing you can't fault WWE for. Their production is always just brilliant. And I'm sure this year it will also be. So great set. I mean, these sort of unveiling videos have become a bit of a WrestleMania tradition. My only gripe when I see these kind of sets is I grew up in an era, in the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression era, whereby we used to see custom sets every single week for Raw and SmackDown. They had their own sets that were differentiated. And also for every pay-per-view. Every pay-per-view had its own set, whether it was Backlash with the pincers, whether it was Judgment Day, whether it was Vengeance, whether it was SummerSlam with a giant S, and they all had their different sets, and we just don't see that anymore, which is a big disappointment because I think that's a big selling point of these events. But hey, that is what that is. They kind of went for it when the brand split was reimagined once again when it came to sort of around 2019 when you had Bischoff and Heyman come back, because they had Raw had the skateboard set and SmackDown had its own one, and I enjoyed that. It does make the shows just feel different, but whether they go back to that, who knows. Triple H, of course, announced his retirement recently, but he made a surprise appearance at a talent meeting in Dallas, Texas yesterday. Now, WWE Talent Relations head John Laurinaitis kicked off the meeting by saying he had a guest for the wrestlers in attendance, according to Fightful Select. He then introduced Triple H, who hasn't been seen by most talent since August. Word is that this was an emotional scene, with many elated that Triple H was there. He discussed his health challenges and then introduced WWE President and Chief Revenue Officer Nick Khan, who he called a friend for more than 10 years. Khan reportedly provided key business updates to the roster and announced that talent will now make additional additional money/profit participation on top of their superstar contracts for revenue generated from third-party platforms. Get into this in a second. This includes cameo, autograph signing, scripted and unscripted programming. Several wrestlers in attendance noted that this was great, unanimously positive meeting. One source described it as a great way to start a big weekend. So that bit when they say about, you now can make money on cameo, autograph signing, scripted and unscripted programming. Yes, because WWE is controlling it all. This is the thing. These guys were making that money. They were making way more money than they'll make on top of this. They were making a ton. Alexa Bliss and those people were making a ton of money on Cameo or on Twitch. And WWE said, no, we get our cut of that. So they basically grabbed it from them. This was during a pandemic, by the way, when their money was significantly down because they weren't touring as well. Let's not forget all of this. When their money was significantly down, and they took that away from them anyway and basically said, no, we're going to do it. We're going to get the lion's share of the profits, and you can have a little bit even though you're doing all the work. That's literally the situation there, okay? So they can be happy. Great, we're making money on Cameo and all this kind of stuff, but, they could have been making way more, and they were making way more. It's great, of course, to hear that Triple H is back, though, and interacting with the talents, and I'm glad that the talents are happy going into WrestleMania weekend. They usually are. They can feel bad, and it's very cyclical, all this kind of stuff. You'll hear at some point, probably in the spring, that talent aren't happy. You'll hear stuff definitely at the end of the year that talent aren't happy and they burn out. Once you start getting into these stadium shows, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, everyone feels great because they're the best time of the year financially and in terms of performing. So, of course, that's always the case. Bray Wyatt is in Dallas for WrestleMania weekend, and no, he's not coming back to WWE. He's going to be at WrestleCon, but on Thursday night, Wyatt noted on Instagram that he hates ruining surprises. He also encouraged fans to ask up to 6 questions that he will answer, and he did answer. He said, quote, I just got to Dallas. This place feels so alive. It makes me feel alive. This week in particular has always been a huge part of me. God damn, I miss this energy. I missed all of you too. I'm sure some of you have questions for me. I got answers. Here it is. I'll reply to 6 questions in the next hour. Keep in mind, I hate ruining surprises. Now, Wyatt is the headline attraction for WrestleCon's US versus the World event, scheduled for Saturday. With tons of other shows happening in the Dallas area, it's possible that Wyatt makes a few surprise appearances. Now, some people thought on social media that Wyatt's going to be Rollins' possible mystery opponent. That's not the case. Some people are saying, is he going to show up at Ring of Honor? I'd be really, really surprised. I think he's just in town for the convention. I think like when we're All Out in 2019, when CM Punk was just in town to do Conrad Thompson Starcast, but everyone went, no, he's going to show up, and then he didn't. I don't think Bray Wyatt's going to show up anywhere. Now, when he did mention about answering these fan questions, he's a man of his word. So these are the questions that he was asked. 1, why are you in Dallas? He said, I'm here for WrestleCon, but it's whatever, man. 'Tis the season. The next one was, are you going to wrestle again? He said, I will always love wrestling. I couldn't imagine spending the rest of my life without stepping in the ring again and hearing that roar again. I think about it often. Everything has to be in place, though. Like I said, timing is everything. The next one was, when are you going to feed us baby birds? Which was a reference to an October cryptic tweet. He said, wrestling is so immediate. It took me some time to understand that everything else out there isn't a live weekly episodic chaos experiment. It took me a second, but I forced myself to be still until I was thinking logically. I'm all in the clear now. It's the quality I'm after. My life's work, my legacy was burned, but I promise you when I leave the earth, my past will be far from what my legacy stands for. Interesting that he says that. Next question was, how is your health? Seriously? He said, I have never been more healthy, both physically and mentally. I've been able to challenge myself with projects that would have never been possible before. This is a happy time for me, but I have to be patient. Timing is everything. Next question was, maybe he's wrestling Seth Rollins. He said, quote, I love Seth. I love him so goddamn much. Me and him will make up for that one day. And when we do, everyone will understand that wild horses are meant to run free. Next question was, where is The Fiend? He said, you know where. Next question was, this is him trolling. He said, I'm not trolling. I'm answering questions, and this one doesn't count. Next question was, I swear if you return to the ring in any way, it's going to be insane. I definitely miss your work and energy. And he said, me too, man, me too. Next question was, who is winning, Seth Rollins or you? He said, haven't Tom Pritchard. I love that man. Rotunda did not elaborate on that one. He was next asked about things about the Firefly Funhouse that aren't as important. An interesting one was, are you allowed to use anything regarding The Fiend outside of the WWE? If so, will you continue his story in other ways and other media? He said, quote, "There was never a Fiend, there was only me. I am the Fiend, and I don't need the name, mask, or moniker. I just simply am." So that's Bray Wyatt's update. Like I said, I don't expect him to show up at any events over the weekend. Could go back to WWE, but I think with all of this freedom that he's found, unless they financially made him a fantastic offer, I just don't see it at this point. I don't. Randy Orton was a guest on the Pat McAfee show, and what was interesting is that he said some things about NXT and the training there, and this isn't actually the first time that he's mentioned NXT. Now, while discussing how much respect he has for Hall of Famer Edge, Orton lamented that modern-day wrestlers don't understand the finer points of selling. He said, quote, "There's an art to what we do, and a lot of guys have lost that art. Now, instead of selling a punch, because you need to sell a punch, now I'm protecting myself because I don't want my effing jaw broken. That's unfortunate, but the art to professional wrestling, like when Vince was on, he talked about your number one priority above all being protecting your opponent. That's not taught necessarily in NXT. I know that because I've been in the ring with the guys that come from NXT, and they don't know what the F they're doing. It's unfortunate, but I think that's just kind of how things are changing." And again, it's not the first time he said that. I think that there's kind of this impression that people have that if you were trained by WWE, you're trained the right way, or you get the best training because they're the biggest company in the world. That's not necessarily the case. You know, there are people that have been frankly dangerous that have come from NXT. You're either a good wrestler or you're not. And, you know, regardless of the things you taught, some people are smarter than others and learn, and some people don't want to learn. And some people, that's it. I think if Randy Orton was saying that I wasn't safe, I'd have a real hard look at myself and go, okay, maybe I need to improve on that, or maybe I need to do whatever. Granted, I'm sure there are certain things that these talents are taught, and they're taught the WWE style in NXT or in WWE developmental, the same way as Randy Orton was told and taught that style. But everyone creates their own style as well. It's about finding that in the parameters of it. So I think it's a fascinating interview, and would definitely recommend to go check that out. It's a great interview by Pat McAfee. He's a very good interviewer. Seth Rollins has been continuing to tease who his opponent could be at WrestleMania 38. On Thursday, Rollins tweeted gifs of WWE Chairman Vince McMahon, injured superstars Asuka and Bayley, WWE Hall of Famer Bill Goldberg, and included released AEW talent, who wasn't released, his contract is expiring, Marco Stunt, and also Elias. I must say, I enjoyed the Marco Stunt tease. Obviously, that comes from Rollins because WWE, I don't even know if they know Marco Stunt is, frankly, but that's coming from Seth Rollins, and he's just having fun with it. You know, he's having fun, and I'm sure the headlines of Seth Rollins teases former AEW star's opponent was, "Oh, Cody Rhodes." He's talking about Marco Stunt. Tremendous trolling. The Undertaker had a statue unveiled at WrestleMania Access yesterday. A life-size statue of 2022 WWE Hall of Famer The Undertaker was revealed at the WrestleMania 38 Superstore Access last night. The Undertaker's wife, Michelle McCool, and their daughter attended the ceremony. Several WWE Hall of Famers and superstars attended. This include Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Kane, Rikishi, Charles Wright, the Godfather, Mark Canterbury, Henry O. Godwin, and Dennis Knight, Phineas I. Godwin, Midian, also known as. So a lot of those people are very close friends, of course, of The Undertaker. They're BSK. That's essentially the remaining members of BSK, right? Savio Vega, I guess I wasn't there, but those are the people. I think the statue looks great, actually, must be said. Those statues are pretty good, and it's a great statue, and I really enjoyed that WrestleMania tradition. We didn't obviously have it the last few years because of the pandemic, and I'm sure lead times for these things take a while, so they can't turn it around quickly as they would have, I guess, hoped in the past, but it's great. I think it looks a great statue, and it's fitting of the Hall of Famer himself. Now, my plans for tonight, because I've heard a lot of people asking me, what are you going to do tonight, Owen? You're going to do a watch-along of the Hall of Fame? You're going to do a post-show? There's a lot going on tonight. There's Supercard of Honor. Of course, there's SmackDown. There is the Hall of Fame. I think my plan is to try and do post-shows for most of them and maybe not watch-alongs, because that might be particularly difficult. But let me know. Let me know what you want to see this evening, and I'll see what I can do. Some updates when it comes to Bayley and Asuka. Bayley and Asuka are among the wrestlers who WWE have brought into Dallas for WrestleMania 38 weekend. There's no word on if WWE has plans for Asuka or Bayley to return this weekend or at the post-WrestleMania Raw on Monday, but PW Insider reports that they are in town. They are not booked for any WrestleMania panels at Access, so it remains to be seen why they're brought in. It could just be a case of they bring everyone in, because they do bring everyone in for WrestleMania mostly, so it might just be a case of that, but Bayley's ready to return. I expect it to be either on the Raw or SmackDown post-WrestleMania. I would probably honestly prefer it to be SmackDown. The reason I say that, because Bianca Belair will be the Raw Women's Champion, and I know that Bayley was feuding with Bianca Belair at the time of her injury, but they'd done so many matches and it was meant to be their final blow-off match. I have no interest in seeing her pick that back up. I'd rather go on to SmackDown because I think SmackDown needs it more, honestly. Asuka, maybe she'll arrive on Raw, and maybe that works. You know, Asuka versus maybe Bianca Belair is an interesting match that they could do. So I think that's where they'll be going with that one. I do expect either one or both of them to return very, very soon. Finally, an update when it comes to Bobby Lashley. Of course, we know that Lashley's facing Asuka at WrestleMania, but Lashley will be working as a babyface superstar moving forward. Of course, he returned to Raw this past week after being out with a shoulder injury, and he set up his match with Asuka at WrestleMania. In an update, PW Insider reports that internally, Lashley is now listed as a babyface for the Red brand, but a lot of people are wondering what's the situation with MVP. Now, there's no word yet on if MVP will be returning to storylines with Lashley. He's been away while Lashley has been recovering and just has spent some time in the Performance Center working with names like Julius Creed and NXT North American Champion Carmelo Hayes. MVP indicated in recent Instagram posts that he was rehabbing his knee in hopes of getting medically cleared. He recently returned to the mats at the Gracie Barra Champions in Houston, Texas to work on his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I still think, again, my prediction is that MVP maybe comes out with Lashley at WrestleMania or returns at WrestleMania and costs him the match, and Asuka is his new client. I think that's the direction that they're going in, but we'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe to Wrestling News 365, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.